It started with a laugh, the kind that makes you turn your head even when you don't want to be noticed. I was standing by the edge of the fairground, watching the crowd move like waves, neon lights painting faces in colors that didn't belong to them. Then I heard her. A low voice, playful, teasing, carrying over the noise. "Nice legs," she said, and for a moment I thought she was talking to someone else. My chest tightened, a kind of nervous heat climbing up my neck when I realized her eyes were on me. Her uniform told me everything I needed to know. She was a cop, probably on duty, but her smile didn't match the seriousness of her badge. It was mischievous, like she already knew how this would end. Before I could respond, she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of mint and leather. Her hand brushed mine, not gently but firmly, a grip that didn't ask permission. She leaned in, her whisper sharp in my ear. "Come with me." I should have pulled back, should have asked questions, but there was something magnetic in her tone, something that made me follow without thinking. She didn't walk slow, and she didn't look back. Her boots crunched against gravel as she pulled me past the crowd, down a narrow dirt path that cut into the woods behind the fair. I remember my heartbeat then, loud, uneven, like it wanted to escape my chest. Fear mixed with curiosity, and under it all, a thrill I couldn't ignore. Nobody had ever looked at me the way she did. When the music from the fair grew faint, swallowed by the sound of wind moving through the trees, I found my voice. "Why me?" I asked, half out of breath. She didn't answer right away. Her hand tightened around mine, her stride never slowing. The air in the woods was colder, and every step made me feel like I was leaving behind the life I knew. Finally, she stopped in a small clearing where the moonlight cut through the branches. She turned to face me, her eyes catching the silver glow. "Because you look like someone who doesn't run," she said, her voice steady, as if that explained everything. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words got tangled in my throat. Instead, I stood there, caught between suspicion and the strange comfort of her presence. She wasn't like anyone I'd met before. She carried danger in her posture, but also a softness hidden just beneath, as if she had built walls around herself that only cracked when she smiled. She took a step closer, her face only inches from mine. "I shouldn't be doing this," she whispered, her lips curving into a half-smile. "But rules never saved me." Her honesty startled me, like I had been handed a secret I didn't deserve. And before I could process it, she reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, her fingers brushing my skin. That single touch sent shivers racing down my spine. She wasn't asking for permission. She was pulling me into her world, a world that felt dangerous but irresistible. The woods were silent except for the sound of my own breathing, and in that silence, I realized something I couldn't deny. This wasn't just a game. This was the beginning of something I had no control over. Her eyes stayed locked on mine, steady and unblinking, as if she was searching for something buried beneath my skin. I felt exposed under that gaze, like every guarded piece of me was being dragged into the open. She hadn't let go of my hand, and even though I could have pulled away, the thought never crossed my mind. Her grip was both a warning and a promise, and the way her thumb moved lightly across my knuckles made me forget the sharp edges of fear cutting through my chest. The woods around us seemed alive, branches swaying above, the faint call of an owl echoing through the night, but none of it mattered. It felt like the world had shrunk down to just her and me in that moonlit clearing. When she finally spoke again, her voice was lower, more serious, carrying a weight that pressed into me. "You're stronger than you look," she said. I almost laughed at that, not because it was funny, but because it felt like she could see things about me that no one else ever had. People saw the quiet girl, the one who kept her distance, who never let anyone too close. But here she was, a stranger in uniform, speaking as though she already knew the secrets I worked so hard to hide. My mouth was dry when I answered, my voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know me." She tilted her head, her dark hair falling across her cheek as she smirked. "I don't have to. I can feel it." I didn't know how to explain the effect she had on me. Every word she said seemed to dig beneath my defenses, and every time she stepped closer, the ground beneath me felt less stable. My instincts told me I should ask her why she brought me here, what she wanted from me, but my heart was too busy pounding, and my body was too busy leaning toward hers without permission from my mind. She let out a slow breath, her shoulders dropping, and for the first time I saw something fragile in her expression. "You think being a cop means I'm untouchable, that I follow rules and keep lines straight." Her tone hardened as she spoke, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. "But the truth is, I've been breaking rules just to feel alive." That confession hung between us, heavy, daring me to judge her. But instead of fear, all I felt was a strange relief. She wasn't invincible, not some untouchable figure of authority. She was human, flawed, restless, and maybe just as lost as I was. So why me? I asked again, this time louder, needing something more than riddles. Her jaw clenched, her eyes flickering away for the first time since we'd met. She seemed to wrestle with something inside her before she turned back to me, her voice quieter but filled with conviction. "Because when I saw you standing there, you looked like someone who needed to be seen. And I needed someone to see me." The words knocked the air out of my lungs. Nobody had ever said something like that to me, not in a way that felt this raw, this unpolished. She was exposing her need as much as mine, tying us together with invisible threads neither of us could ignore. She let go of my hand then, but only to place her palm against my cheek. The warmth of her skin against mine made my eyes sting with emotions I couldn't control. She leaned in, close enough that I could feel the softness of her breath mixing with mine. Every nerve in my body was screaming with anticipation, fear, and desire tangled so tightly I couldn't separate them. For a second, I thought she would kiss me, and maybe I wanted her to, but instead she whispered, "Don't run from this. Not from me." Her words settled deep in my chest, sinking into places I didn't even know were empty. I didn't answer her. I couldn't. All I could do was stand there, trembling with the weight of a choice I hadn't realized I was already making. The silence stretched between us, heavy and unbreakable, until the night air itself seemed to lean in, waiting for what would happen next. I stood frozen, but inside me everything was racing, tumbling, breaking apart and coming together all at once. My chest ached with the rush of it, the heat rising from her closeness, the way her eyes refused to let me go. I could see tiny flecks of gold in her irises when the moonlight caught them, and it felt like staring at fire while pretending not to burn. She hadn't moved, her hand still against my cheek, but I could sense her restraint, like she was holding herself back from something she wanted but couldn't allow herself to take. That restraint only pulled me in deeper, made me wonder what it would feel like if she ever stopped holding back. I swallowed hard, trying to breathe past the knot in my throat. "I don't know what you want from me," I finally said, my voice cracking in the middle. Her lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes stayed serious, shadowed with something unsaid. "I don't want anything you're not willing to give," she whispered, and yet the way she said it made me think she wanted everything. The honesty in her tone unsettled me more than any lie could have. I wasn't used to people being this direct, this raw, not without strings or hidden agendas. I tried to step back, to create space, but my body betrayed me, leaning closer instead, searching for warmth in the cold night air. She noticed. I could tell by the way her smile softened, as if she knew the war I was fighting inside myself. Her thumb brushed gently along my jawline before she finally dropped her hand, leaving my skin tingling, my face feeling empty without her touch. For a moment, I thought she would turn away, let the tension break, but instead she took a slow step backward, her eyes never leaving mine. "Walk with me," she said, and it didn't sound like a request. It was steady, quiet, but laced with an authority that made refusal impossible. I followed her deeper into the woods, branches snapping under our feet, the moonlight flickering through shifting leaves. The farther we went, the more it felt like we were walking into a place outside of time, away from the world that would never understand what was unfolding between us. She didn't speak at first, and neither did I. The silence wasn't awkward, it was charged, thick with unspoken things that pressed against my chest. Every now and then she glanced over her shoulder, checking to see if I was still behind her, and every time our eyes met, my stomach twisted with something sharp and beautiful. Finally, she stopped near a fallen tree, sitting on the rough bark like it was a throne she had claimed for herself. She patted the space beside her, and I obeyed without question, lowering myself beside her, feeling the warmth of her shoulder brush against mine. For a long moment, she stared at the sky through the gaps in the trees. Her posture was rigid, like she was holding in words that wanted to spill. I waited, the night stretching thin, until she finally spoke. "This job," she said slowly, "it takes pieces of you. Pieces you don't even realize are gone until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself anymore." Her voice cracked on the last word, but she recovered quickly, clearing her throat. "I keep trying to be what the badge tells me to be. Tough. Unbreakable. In control. But then I saw you." She trailed off, her hand gripping the edge of the bark, her knuckles white. My breath caught, my heart pounding so loudly I was afraid she could hear it. I didn't interrupt. I couldn't. She finally turned to me, and in her gaze was a vulnerability so raw it made my chest ache. "You make me forget the uniform. You make me feel human again." The words hit me harder than I expected, cutting through every layer of fear and confusion. No one had ever said something like that to me, not with that much truth woven into it. I felt my throat tighten, my eyes sting, and without thinking, I reached for her hand. Her fingers curled around mine instantly, desperate, as if she had been waiting for me to make that move. In that moment, under the weight of her confession, I realized we were no longer strangers pulled together by chance. We were two people on the edge of something neither of us fully understood, but both of us already needed. Her hand in mine was steady, but I could feel the tremor hiding beneath her skin, the kind of tremor that comes when someone finally stops pretending to be strong. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to carry the weight of her confession, but I didn't let go. My thumb moved slowly against her knuckles, trying to tell her through touch that she wasn't alone. She turned her face away, like she didn't want me to see her walls crumbling, but the silence between us was louder than any words. The forest around us seemed to breathe with us, every rustle of the leaves a reminder that the world was still turning, even as everything inside me stood still. After a long pause, she whispered, "I don't let people close. Not ever. They expect the badge, the rules, the power. They don't want the person under it. But you looked at me without fear. You didn't see the cop. You saw me." Her words struck deep, and I felt a heaviness in my chest, like her honesty was pushing against the walls I had built inside myself too. I had always been the quiet one, the one who hid in corners, who never wanted eyes on me because eyes only ever judged. Yet here she was, looking at me like I was something worth being seen. It made my stomach twist with fear and wonder, because I didn't know if I was ready to be seen like that, but I didn't want her to stop. I swallowed, my voice soft but certain. "You scare me," I admitted. "Not because of who you are, but because of what you make me feel. It's like I've been asleep and you just woke me up." For a moment, I thought I'd said too much. Her lips parted, her eyes wide, as if she wasn't expecting me to hand her a piece of my soul. Then, slowly, a smile tugged at her mouth, but it wasn't playful or teasing this time. It was gentle, almost fragile, and it made her look younger, like a weight had slipped off her shoulders for just a second. She leaned closer, our shoulders pressed tight together now, her voice low enough that it felt like it belonged only to me. "That's exactly how you scare me too." The honesty of that admission sent a shiver through me. We sat in that quiet, our breaths sinking, the heat of her hand wrapped around mine grounding me. I felt something shift between us, something invisible but undeniable, a thread pulling tighter. She tilted her head back, staring at the stars, and for a while I just watched her, memorizing the shape of her jawline, the way the moonlight brushed against her cheekbones, the softness hidden under her sharp exterior. She didn't look like a cop anymore. She looked like someone searching for a reason to keep going. Without thinking, I whispered, "I don't want you to feel alone anymore." The words slipped out before I could catch them, but they felt right, truer than anything I had said in a long time. Her hand squeezed mine, and when she turned to face me, there was a glint in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Hope, fragile but real. She let out a shaky laugh, one that sounded more like a release than amusement. "You have no idea what you're stepping into," she said, but her tone wasn't warning me away. It was almost like she was daring me to stay. My chest tightened, but I didn't pull back. I met her gaze head on, my voice steady even as my heart stumbled. "Then let me find out." Something in her broke then, but not in a way that made her weaker. It was like a door had finally been pushed open, and she let herself fall through it. She leaned closer, so close I could feel the warmth of her breath brushing my lips. Time stretched thin, my pulse hammering in my ears, until she finally whispered, "You're going to ruin me." My voice shook when I answered, but I didn't hesitate. "Maybe I'll save you." And in that moment, the space between us dissolved, leaving only the certainty that neither of us could go back to the people we were before. Her hand in mine was steady, but I could feel the tremor hiding beneath her skin, The kind of tremor that comes when someone finally stops pretending to be strong. I didn't know what to say, didn't know how to carry the weight of her confession, but I didn't let go. My thumb moved slowly against her knuckles, trying to tell her through touch that she wasn't alone. She turned her face away, like she didn't want me to see her walls crumbling, but the silence between us was louder than any words. The forest around us seemed to breathe with us, every rustle of the leaves a reminder that the world was still turning, even as everything inside me stood still. After a long pause, she whispered, "I don't let people close. Not ever. They expect the badge, the rules, the power. They don't want the person under it. But you looked at me without fear. You didn't see the cop. You saw me." Her words struck deep, and I felt a heaviness in my chest, like her honesty was pushing against the walls I had built inside myself too. I had always been the quiet one, the one who hid in corners, who never wanted eyes on me because eyes only ever judged. Yet here she was, looking at me like I was something worth being seen. It made my stomach twist with fear and wonder, because I didn't know if I was ready to be seen like that, but I didn't want her to stop. I swallowed, my voice soft but certain. "You scare me," I admitted. "Not because of who you are, but because of what you make me feel. It's like I've been asleep and you just woke me up." For a moment, I thought I'd said too much. Her lips parted, her eyes wide, as if she wasn't expecting me to hand her a piece of my soul. Then, slowly, a smile tugged at her mouth, but it wasn't playful or teasing this time. It was gentle, almost fragile, and it made her look younger, like a weight had slipped off her shoulders for just a second. She leaned closer, our shoulders pressed tight together now, her voice low enough that it felt like it belonged only to me. "That's exactly how you scare me too." The honesty of that admission sent a shiver through me. We sat in that quiet, our breaths sinking, the heat of her hand wrapped around mine grounding me. I felt something shift between us, something invisible but undeniable, a thread pulling tighter. She tilted her head back, staring at the stars, and for a while I just watched her, memorizing the shape of her jawline, the way the moonlight brushed against her cheekbones, the softness hidden under her sharp exterior. She didn't look like a cop anymore. She looked like someone searching for a reason to keep going. Without thinking, I whispered, "I don't want you to feel alone anymore." The words slipped out before I could catch them, but they felt right, truer than anything I had said in a long time. Her hand squeezed mine, and when she turned to face me, there was a glint in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Hope, fragile but real. She let out a shaky laugh, one that sounded more like a release than amusement. "You have no idea what you're stepping into," she said, but her tone wasn't warning me away. It was almost like she was daring me to stay. My chest tightened, but I didn't pull back. I met her gaze head on, my voice steady even as my heart stumbled. "Then let me find out." Something in her broke then, but not in a way that made her weaker. It was like a door had finally been pushed open, and she let herself fall through it. She leaned closer, so close I could feel the warmth of her breath brushing my lips. Time stretched thin, my pulse hammering in my ears, until she finally whispered, "You're going to ruin me." My voice shook when I answered, but I didn't hesitate. "Maybe I'll save you." And in that moment, the space between us dissolved, leaving only the certainty that neither of us could go back to the people we were before. The way her words lingered between us made the night feel heavier, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath to hear what would come next. She didn't kiss me, though every part of me thought she might. Instead, she pulled her hand back, dragging her fingers slowly from mine like she was afraid of letting go too fast. The loss of her touch was sharp, a sting that settled in my chest, but I stayed quiet. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't name, part longing, part hesitation, and part something darker, something she wasn't ready to show. Her body turned slightly away, her arms folding across her chest as if she was gathering herself back together. I wanted to reach for her again, but I could see the storm behind her eyes and I knew she needed space to let it settle. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft hum of night creatures in the woods. I found myself memorizing every detail of her, the curve of her jaw, the way her hair fell into her face when she tilted her head down, the restless tapping of her boot against the ground. She looked strong, but that strength felt like a mask now, something heavy she carried because the world demanded it of her. I wondered how long she had been holding it all in, how long she had walked around as if nothing could touch her. Finally, she exhaled, a long, shaky breath that seemed to empty her of something heavy. "You don't know how dangerous it is for me to let you this close," she said softly, her voice breaking at the edges. "My life doesn't belong to me anymore. Every choice I make has a consequence. Every person I care about becomes a target." And still, her words trailed off as she shook her head, like she didn't trust herself to finish. I shifted closer, the rough bark of the fallen tree digging into the back of my legs, but I didn't care. I wanted her to feel my presence, to know that she wasn't alone in this confession. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Still, you're here. Still, you're talking to me. Doesn't that mean something?" Her eyes flicked to mine then, sharp and vulnerable all at once, as if she wanted to believe me but didn't dare. "It means everything," she admitted, almost too quietly for me to hear. My breath caught in my throat, my heart hammering at the rawness of her honesty. It wasn't some grand declaration, but it was enough to unravel me. The truth was, I didn't fully understand why I was here either, why I hadn't pulled away when she first grabbed my hand, why I followed her into these woods without question. But in this moment, I realized it wasn't about understanding. It was about feeling, about the way she made the world sharper, clearer, more alive. She reached for me then, not hesitantly this time, but with urgency. Her fingers threaded through mine, holding on tight, her thumb pressing into the back of my hand like she was grounding herself. Her eyes softened as she studied me, and for the first time, I saw the walls around her crack wide open. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to let someone in without breaking them." I swallowed hard, my chest aching as I tried to form the right words. "Then don't try to be perfect. Don't try to protect me from yourself. Just let me stand with you. That's all I want." She stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was real, if the words I'd just spoken weren't some illusion her mind had created in desperation. Slowly, she nodded, her grip on my hand tightening until it almost hurt, but I didn't flinch. The pain felt like proof, like a promise she wasn't going to let go this time. The air around us thickened, charged with something more powerful than fear or doubt. For the first time since this night began, I felt less like a girl being dragged into someone else's world, and more like I was choosing to step into it with her. And even though my heart was racing with uncertainty, a quiet strength began to bloom in my chest, a strength born from the simple truth that neither of us wanted to face this night alone. The grip of her hand around mine felt almost desperate now, not like before when it was confident and commanding, but like she was holding on because she was afraid if she let go, everything would fall apart. The shift in her touched me deeper than I could explain. She wasn't showing me the badge, the authority, the part of her that scared others into silence. She was showing me the trembling, uncertain person who lived beneath all of that, the part no one else was supposed to see. And somehow, she trusted me with it. The woods had grown quieter, as if the night itself was listening, and I could feel the cold pressing through the fabric of my clothes. But the warmth of her palm against mine kept me steady, kept me here. She lowered her gaze, her voice rough as she said, "I've spent years shutting everyone out. The job makes it easy, long hours, excuses, walls that people can't climb. But you're breaking through in one night, and I don't know what that means for me." Her confession sliced through me. I wanted to answer, but for a moment I just looked at her, at the way her shoulders seemed so heavy, like she'd been carrying her whole life alone. I thought of my own walls, how I'd lived on the edges of things, afraid to be noticed, afraid to be touched, and how one simple look from her had pulled me into the center of a world I didn't know I wanted. "It doesn't have to mean anything," I whispered, leaning closer. "It can just be us right now. Just this moment." She turned to me then, her eyes searching mine as if she was looking for proof that I wasn't lying, proof that I wouldn't abandon her once I saw too much. Whatever she found in my face must have been enough, because her body relaxed slightly, her shoulders lowering as she let out a slow breath. She didn't let go of my hand. Instead, she shifted, moving closer until her thigh brushed against mine, the contact sending a rush of warmth through me. The space between us dissolved until there was nothing left but the steady thrum of her heartbeat pressed against the fragile rhythm of mine. "Do you know what it feels like," she said softly, "to walk through every day pretending you don't want more? Pretending that silence is enough, that loneliness is a choice you made and not something forced on you?" My throat tightened, because yes, I knew. I knew it too well. That quiet ache of living half a life, of convincing yourself you don't need what you secretly crave. I nodded, unable to find words, and she saw the answer in my eyes. She reached up then, slowly, as though giving me time to pull away. Her fingers brushed along the line of my jaw, then lingered against my cheek, her touch so gentle it made my chest ache. I leaned into it without thinking, my body surrendering before my mind could catch up. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't close the space between us. Instead, she whispered, "You're dangerous for me." The honesty of that cut deeper than any warning, because it was laced with yearning, with the truth that she didn't want to stay away. My heart hammered as I whispered back, "Then maybe I'm exactly what you need." The look in her eyes in that moment burned into me, fear, longing, and something that looked like surrender. Slowly, she leaned forward until her forehead rested lightly against mine. We stayed like that, breathing each other in, letting the silence hold us together. It wasn't a kiss, but it was more intimate than anything I had ever known. Her breath trembled against my lips as she whispered, "Don't disappear on me." And I knew then that no matter how complicated this was, no matter how much it scared me, I couldn't walk away. I tightened my fingers around hers, my voice steady even as tears threatened to rise. "I'm not going anywhere." Her forehead pressed against mine lingered longer than I expected, and the quiet weight of it sank deep inside me. It wasn't just a touch, it was a surrender, a silent plea not to break the fragile thread tying us together. Her breath brushed against my lips, uneven, shaky, betraying how hard she was fighting to keep control. I didn't move away. I let her feel my presence, my steadiness, because I understood in that moment that her strength came not from being unshaken but from daring to let someone witness her tremble. The forest around us was a wall of shadows and silence, but inside me everything was loud, the pounding of my heart, the rush of my blood, the unspoken words I couldn't hold back anymore. I closed my eyes and whispered, "You don't have to be strong with me." She stiffened, as if the idea itself was dangerous, and for a moment I thought she would retreat back into the armor she knew so well. But then her body softened against mine, her hand sliding from my cheek to the back of my neck, her fingers curling in my hair as though anchoring herself. "If I'm not strong," she murmured, her voice raw, "I don't know who I am anymore." That confession broke something in me. I opened my eyes and pulled back just enough to see her face. Her eyes were glassy, reflecting the thin glow of moonlight, her jaw tight with the effort of holding herself together. She looked so human, so unbearably human, that I couldn't stop myself from reaching up and cradling her face in my hands. My thumbs brushed her cheeks, and she closed her eyes as if my touch both hurt and healed her. "Maybe you don't have to know," I said softly. "Maybe you just get to be, you. Here. With me." Her lips trembled, parting as if to argue, but no words came. Instead, she leaned into my palms, letting herself rest there, and I felt her surrender in the small exhale that left her chest. It was the kind of surrender that wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, fragile, the kind of surrender that only happened when someone was exhausted from fighting battles no one else ever saw. She pulled me closer then, not in a rush, but in a slow, deliberate motion, until her temple rested against the side of my head. Her arms slipped around me, strong yet tender, holding me in a way that felt both protective and desperate. My own arms found their way around her, and we sat there, wrapped in each other, as the night carried on around us. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, uneven but steadying with every second. It was as if she was finally allowing herself to be still. Her voice came muffled against my shoulder, but I heard every word. "I've been carrying so much, and no one has ever asked me to put it down. They just expect me to keep holding it. You're the first person who ever told me I didn't have to." My throat tightened, emotion clawing at me, but I managed to whisper, "That's because I see you. Not the badge, not the walls. Just you." She drew back slightly to look at me, her eyes burning with an intensity that made my chest ache. "And that terrifies me," she admitted, her hand brushing my hair back from my face. "Because I know once someone sees me like this, I can't go back to pretending." I swallowed hard, the truth of her words sinking deep. "Then don't pretend anymore." The air between us grew heavy again, the kind of heavy that pulled everything closer, until I could feel the warmth of her breath against my mouth. My pulse raced, but I didn't move away. Neither did she. We hovered there, caught in the gravity of something neither of us had chosen but both of us needed. She closed her eyes first, and in the silence that followed, I understood that whatever came next, we had already crossed a line we could never uncross. And instead of fear, what filled me was a quiet certainty. I didn't want to. Her breath mingled with mine as she hovered there, her lips so close that the smallest shift could have bridged the space. But instead of kissing me, she pulled back slowly, her eyes searching my face as though she was memorizing every detail. The restraint in her gaze was almost unbearable, and yet it made the moment more intimate, more powerful than anything else could have. I could see the war inside her, the side of her that wanted to surrender to what she felt, and the side that had been trained to keep every emotion buried under layers of control. The longer she looked at me, the more I realized she was choosing. And then, finally, her choice came not in words but in action. She reached for me again, both hands framing my face this time, her palms warm and steady, her fingers trembling just slightly as if she had been waiting for years to let herself do this. Her forehead touched mine again, and her eyes closed with a soft sigh. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of all the walls she was finally letting crumble. I don't want to go back to the person I was before tonight. I can't. My chest tightened, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes, because I knew exactly what she meant. She wasn't just talking about me. She was talking about herself, about the person she hid from the world, about the loneliness she wore like armor. My voice came out thick with emotion. Then don't. Be this you. The you that's here with me right now. That's enough. Her hand slid down from my face to my shoulders, gripping me like I was the only thing tethering her to the ground. And maybe I was. The realization hit me like a wave. I had stumbled into something bigger than either of us, something that didn't follow logic or reason, something that scared me but also lit a fire inside me I never wanted to lose. She exhaled shakily, her lips brushing against my cheek as she whispered, "You've changed everything for me. Do you understand that? You've broken through where no one else even tried." My heart ached with the weight of her confession, and yet it filled me with a strength I didn't know I had. I wrapped my arms around her, pulling her into me fully, and for the first time she didn't hesitate. She melted into my embrace, her body heavy against mine, her breath shaky but slowing as if she finally allowed herself to rest. The woods were silent except for the steady rhythm of our breathing, two hearts sinking in the dark. I held her tighter, whispering into her hair, "You're not alone anymore. Not with me." She didn't answer right away, but the way her fingers clutched the fabric of my shirt, the way she buried her face against my shoulder, told me she believed me. And in that moment, I understood something simple but profound. Sometimes saving someone didn't mean pulling them out of their darkness. Sometimes it just meant sitting with them in it, holding them until they remembered they were worthy of being held. The night stretched on, but I didn't feel the cold anymore. I didn't feel the uncertainty, the fear of what tomorrow would bring. All I felt was her, pressed against me, her heartbeat finding steadiness in the space where mine had always been waiting. And as the first light of dawn began to creep through the branches above us, painting the woods in shades of silver and gold, I realized that whatever battles waited outside these trees, whatever weight her badge or my silence had forced us to carry, we had already chosen something stronger than fear. We had chosen each other. And that choice, fragile as it was the beginning of everything.